Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever put on a song from a big artist or watched a movie and just been blown away by how perfect it sounds? Everything is so clear, so powerful. Well, that's not magic. It's this really cool mix of art and, you guessed it, science. Today we're going to pull back the curtain and see what really goes into making professional audio sound so good. All right, let's get into it.
First, let's start with something we've all been through. You know the feeling, right? You're chilling, watching your favorite show, the volume is just right, and then bam, a commercial comes on and nearly gives you a heart attack. For years, that crazy volume jump wasn't a mistake, it was a tactic. And that tactic has a name, the Loudness War. It was this insane race where everyone, ad agencies, record producers, wanted their track to be the absolute loudest thing you heard. Why? Because we tend to think louder sounds better, more exciting, so engineers would just squash the life out of the audio with compression to make everything loud all the time. The big problem? Music lost all its breathing room, its ups and downs, its soul, really.
But, that kind of sonic arms race just couldn't last forever. People were getting tired of it, and the entire industry knew that something had to give. A truce was called, and it was time for some peace and quiet. Well, some consistently leveled peace and quiet.
So all the big players, we're talking broadcasters and streaming giants like Spotify and Apple Music, they all got together and basically said, okay, this is getting ridiculous. They realized they were just annoying their own customers, so they agreed to stop fighting over who could be the loudest. Instead, they decided to play everything at the same perceived level. And just like that, the loudness war was over.
So how did they do it? Well, they built their truce around this brilliant standard called EBU R. It came from the European Broadcasting Union, and trust me, this wasn't just some new rule. It was a complete revolution in how we think about and measure sound. This really shows you the massive shift in thinking. The old way, over on the left, was all about just finding the single loudest millisecond of a song and making sure it didn't distort. It's a very robotic way of looking at it. But the new way, it's way smarter. It measures the perceived loudness, the way our own ears and brain process sound over time. We basically stopped measuring for machines and started measuring for people. And to do that, of course, we needed a whole new unit of measurement. So say hello to LUFS. It stands for Loudness Units Full Scale. Just think of it as a new kind of decibel, but instead of measuring one tiny peak, it measures the overall average loudness of a whole song or a whole TV show, just like you would hear it.
And this is the magic number, laid out by that EBU R128 standard, -23 LUFS. That became the target that everyone had to hit. It didn't matter if you tried to make your song super loud anymore. The moment you upload it, the streaming service just turns it down to match this target. Suddenly, the playing field was completely level.
And this standard is brilliant. It has a smart gate that ignores super quiet parts, so it's only measuring the actual program material. It also measures something called the loudness range, or LRA, which is like a report card that tells an engineer just how dynamic their track is. And the best part? It's used everywhere, so you get that nice, consistent experience from your TV to your phone.
Okay, so we have this big, global rule for how loud things should be. But what does that actually mean for the engineer in the studio? How do they take a raw, new song and make it fit into this new world while still making it sound amazing?
You see, for a real mastering engineer, hitting that LUFS target is, well, that's just step one. The real art is in shaping the song's dynamics, and they almost always do this by comparing what they're working on to a reference track, another pro-level song that they know just sounds fantastic. The goal is to make the new song have that same kind of punch, that same energy and feel. And you can literally see what I'm talking about right here. On the left, that's like the dynamic fingerprint of a raw track. See how it's all spread out and messy? The volume is all over the place. Now look at the right. That's the pro reference track. It's tight, it's focused, it's punchy. The engineer's job is to use their tools to carefully sculpt the fingerprint on the left until it has the feel and impact of the one on the right.
Modern software is so cool, it can actually analyze both of those fingerprints and give the engineer some suggestions for how to get started. But, and this is a big but, as this quote makes really clear, those are just suggestions, a starting point. In the end, it's the engineer's ears that make the final call, always.
So what are these amazing tools they're using to do all this sonic sculpting? Let's take a little peek inside the Pro Audio Toolkit and look at a couple of their secret weapons.
One of the biggest techniques is called serial compression.
Instead of using one compressor and making it work really, really hard, which can sound super obvious and unnatural, they use a few compressors in a row, where each one just does a tiny little bit of work. So the first one might just gently tame the very loudest hits. The next one might add a bit of overall thickness. Maybe a third one adds some nice character, some glue. The final result is so much more natural and controlled. It's the secret to how pro vocals sound so smooth and present.
Okay, here's another awesome trick. A sidechain high-pass filter. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. It's like putting earmuffs on your compressor and telling it to ignore all the really low bass sounds. Why would you do that? Well, it stops a big thumping kick drum from making the entire song duck down in volume every time it hits. You avoid that weird, unnatural pumping sound and keep the low end powerful without messing up the rest of the mix.
And it's not just about compression. They have super advanced EQs, too. A normal EQ, what we call minimum phase, is kind of like a paintbrush. When you boost one color or one frequency, it subtly affects the colors around it. It can be really musical and beautiful. But sometimes, in mastering, you don't need a paintbrush. You need a scalpel. And that's what a linear phase EQ is. It's this purely digital tool that lets an engineer make a surgical adjustment to one tiny frequency without affecting anything else around it. It's incredibly precise.
So, we've gone through all these standards, these measurements, these incredible digital tools. But it's so important to remember that all of this technology, all this science, it all serves just one thing: a person's creative vision. Because really, that's what it all comes down to. The charts and the graphs, they can give an engineer all the data in the world, but they can't tell them if a song feels right. They can't tell them if it's exciting or emotional or powerful. That decision will always, always be a human one. It's all about taste and experience.
It all boils down to this, right here. A skilled person in a great-sounding room, just listening deeply. They're not just staring at screens and numbers. They are feeling the music. They're using all that science to serve the art, to make sure that final track connects with us on a purely emotional level.
So the next time you pop in your earbuds or turn up your speakers, listen a little differently. Can you hear how controlled and even the volume is? Can you hear how every single instrument has its own perfect little space in the mix, but it all sounds like one cohesive, glued-together piece? Now that you're in on the secrets, you can appreciate not just the song itself, but the incredible art and science that went into making it. So what are you going to listen for?